Hi everyone, and welcome to another CTC webinar series video. My name is Kyle Davis, and today we're going to be going over the proper workflows for collaboration for Revit and BIM 360 team. Before we get started, I do want to mention that we do have the question and answer panel up on your screen on the thing. If you want to propose a question at the time, you can go ahead and do that, and if I'm covering that topic and it's relative, I will answer it at the time, or I will leave them for later on after the webinar. I will cover them then. Before we get started also, I'm going to launch a poll, and I do want you to provide the answers. Are you currently using BIM 360 Team and Collaboration for Revit? Okay, so far I'm seeing it here, it's bouncing back and forth between yes and no. I'm going to leave it open a little bit longer. Okay, so it looks like we're about 53% yes and 47% no. So we got about half the people currently. We got about 80% of people voted, so I do apologize with those that just came in about it, but that is the current results, is that we're 50% yes and 50% no pretty much. So with this video, or with this webinar, we're going to be covering some of the things about it and what we might have seen, and some workflows here. I'm going to launch another poll for those that are using Collaboration for Revit. I want you to answer this one as well. Are you working in a Revit file on Collaboration for Revit, or just using it to transfer a file, or both? In the regards of both, you have you're working in a file, but maybe on another project, you're just using it to upload files to someone else. Now again, if you're actively working on a project, you're in Collaboration for Revit, you're working live on a file in the cloud, whereas no is you're not working on it at all. And both is, again, working with transferring and using a cloud. So I'm going to let this go a little bit longer. It looks like we're at 60% voted, moving up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. So we're again also at a kind of a split between yes and no, and both. We're about 34% yes, 28% no, and 38% both. So again, I just wanted to kind of get an idea of what you're currently using Collaboration for Revit for, if you're using it at all. So let's get right into it now. So the reason for Collaboration for Revit and BIM 360 Team is it's a very handy way to work with other firms or other offices that could be around the world. As long as you have an option of being able to work with those users, you have the option to use Collaboration for Revit and BIM 360 Team. So there's a few different ways to do that, and we'll be talking about the workflows and some things that have come out that can help with this workflow. So the outline for today's webinar is going to be as followed. We're going to talk about the different ways to create a project, invite users, copying and moving files around, saving a file to BIM 360, how there's different ways to do so, working in Revit, and then a new tool that just came out, the new desktop connector. And we'll talk about recovering files, removing files, and archiving projects. And then the last point at the end of, do I need a C4R or not? And then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. The first thing is creating a project in BIM 360 Team and Collaboration for Revit. So as some of you know, when you're those that have been working in collaboration for Revit, if you're the one creating a project, it's actually a pretty simple process that you just go to the website and you hit create project, you give it a name, and you can have it upload an image that you choose, or you can pick one from the presets. If you notice, a lot of the preview images there are basically all the preview images that Autodesk uses for their software. You got the Revit icon and AutoCAD icon and some other software that uses these same images here. But you can also upload your own. So if you had a particular image you want to use for that project, you can upload that. The next portion of it is inviting users. Once you create that project, you then invite users, and you have an option of inviting all the users based on two settings. Are they going to be an editor, or are they going to be a viewer? Editor means that they can actually make changes to that file. They can actually open it up in Revit. They can edit it. They can also edit the files that are on the website. They can move things around and do that. If they are a viewer, that means they can only look at the files. They cannot edit them. So if you just want to invite a user to a project that's just going to be managing what, want to keep track of what it looks like, you can invite them as a viewer. You don't have to invite them as an editor. Another part of the collaboration is once you create a project, actually before we do that, let's get into the website here of the project. I'm going to talk about how you can create a project and invite those users just to see what it looks like. So you go to your company's web address for this and you sign in. And if you are a team admin or a team hub admin, you give the ability to create a project. So when I create a project, I can give it a name. And I can pick an image. I'm just going to pick one that's already here and create that project. And when you create this project, this will then make it available to be able to upload a Revit file to it when we get into the Revit side of it. So once you're in a project, you have the ability to upload files or assemblies, or from Dropbox. You could upload files for Excel documents, CAD files, images, anything else you want, PDFs up here. And you could also create folders so you can manage those. And then inviting users, there's simply an invite button on the side where you can put in the email addresses of all your coworkers. If you have invited them to a project before, you just simply start typing in their username and then they will show up in the list here. So I've already had some coworkers that I've invited to projects, so I can simply show them here and then pick their role and then send an invitation. They will then get an email and they can then accept that email, and then they'll gain access into the project. Now the next portion of was moving and copying some files. One of the other workflows that you've been using with a couple of clients that they wanted to help kind of make it easier for their users when they create a project, they always had some standard files that they wanted to have in every single project. But there was not a way inside the website that you could create a project and have it just be like a template or something already set up and ready to go as soon as a project was created. And you unfortunately also cannot just copy a project or duplicate a project. So whenever I select a project, there's no way to just copy that entire project over. So one of the workflows that we developed and helped with some of our clients is we made a sample project, or what we called like a starter project of sample files, and had their standard things there. And then after the user creates the project, they will go into this other project and select all the files that were needed and copy them to the other location. So I'll show that here. I do have a project that I already have for some sample folders. So if I go into this, I have some sample files here. I also have a Revit file, which I'll get into later. But for now, I'm just going to grab all the folders here. So I have some CAD files, Excel file, and then I have a shared parameter file. When I select them, I can use the copy or move options. I'm not going to move them. I want to keep them in this project, but I want to copy them to another project. So when I copy, I could pick the project I want them to go to and hit copy. This will then move those files over to that other project as well so that they're available in that project as also. This makes it really handy to copy over those standard files that you need for every single project without having to re-upload them every single time. So now that they're completed, if I go back to my other project, those folders will now show up in here as well. So I can now use these inside this project. And we're going to get into this CAD files in a little bit with the share parameters as well with the new option. And as you can see here too, I also, when I invited one of my coworkers, he accepted the invite. He is now part of this project. So again, as soon as they accept it, they show up in here. Now they're able to edit. So again, that is one of the methods that we developed or helped talk about with clients, that you can just move these files around and copy them from one location to another without having to re-upload. The next part of it is saving files. There are two ways to save a file to Collaboration for Revit or BIM 360 team. There is the through Revit using the Collaboration for Revit utility, and there's also just through the website. The first portion of it is the website. Whenever you come in here and you upload a file, if you say upload file and you browse out to a location on your computer, your server, and you grab a file, all you're doing is you're simply uploading the file to the website. When you do this, there will be have a type here. It will actually only be just a Revit file. It will not be a Collaboration for Revit file. So you will not be able to work on this file in C4R or in Revit. This is just a viewing mode currently. So if you wanted to work on this, you'd have to now get rid of it and re-upload the file another way. So this method here is good for transferring files to someone, or you can upload a file that you're just going to use as a reference, but you're not doing anything with it. It's not going to be a live collaboration file. So it could just be sitting there to transfer someone. And in a little bit, I'm going to get into what we can do with this file with the new desktop connector. So I uploaded that file ready to be used. The other part of it is to actually upload a file through Revit itself. So the first part of this is you have to have Revit installed with Collaboration for Revit installed. And if you're using 2016, there is a separate utility for Collaboration for Revit that you have to download and install. If you have the latest update for 16, I know there was one that came out that included Collaboration for Revit update. But if you just simply have the last update of Revit, which was like I think it was like 6 or 7, you can use that to have your Revit up to date, but you have to download Collaboration separately. But in 17 and 18, Collaboration for Revit was hard-coded in some of the updates, so you just want to make sure you have those updates installed as well. And one way to know if you have it installed is if you go to the Collaborate tab, you will have buttons in here that you don't normally have with just non-Collaboration for Revit. Now, I've already opened a file here that already had some work sharing enabled. So when I go to the Collaborate tab, I actually have a button here that says Collaborate in the Cloud. So it's already a work sharing file, but now I want to transfer it to the cloud. So I'm going to do that. But if it's a non-work sharing file and it's the first time you ever have it started, you click Collaborate. Then you get an option of, do you want to collaborate using the cloud or collaborate within your network? And if you want to do the cloud, you click Collaborate in the cloud. And then you pick which project you want to upload. So here, if I click my Collaborate in the cloud, it's going to ask me then, where do I want to put this project? So if I hit the drop down, there's my working project here. So I'm going to hit that and I'm going to initiate. This is then going to take this file, upload it to the BIM 360 team website, and then it'll be available to work on in the cloud. And the nice thing is they give you this newer interface that actually tells you step by step what it's doing. In the older versions, it would just be a very small basic. It would just say it's completing, and it wouldn't give you much detail. Now it actually tells you that it's uploading the model to cloud, saving the model to the local cache. And we'll get into that local cache, and I'll talk about some of those details later too. But as it's uploading and saving, this will then make it available to all the other users as soon as you're in it. Then the nice thing is once it says the saving model to locally, now anyone else that's been invited to the project can now instantly start working on it without you having to close out and get back into the file. Unlike regular work sharing, you had to close, save, close, and get back out. This is a little bit different in the regards that as soon as it does it, it uploads it, it's ready to be used. But I want to show how you would open it though too. So I'm going to close out of this model. And when you're back on the recent files window, you will see a little cloud next to that project. That means that it's a cloud-based project. And if I go to the open, you will also have a BIM 360 button on the side that you want to use. This will be your method. There's not another option in the drop down here as well. BIM 360 gets you to your project. So here's my project folder. If I open that, there's my file. So when you click on it, notice down at the bottom the options of detach from central and create a new local or grade out. Those are just kind of hard-coded in the back end of the collaboration that it just does the create new local for you. If you want to do the detach, there is a method we'll talk about of being able to just save out. So you can just do a save as and then save it locally that way. And that will make it kind of like a downloaded version of the file. So when I open it up, you get an option here. You see what it's doing. It's opening the model, and it will process it, complete it, and then it will open up. Now this one makes it then available on the website. So if I go back to the website and I refresh, the model will now be up in the cloud. So here you can see it's kind of just showing up. And at the end of it, it does say it's a cloud Revit model. This indicates that it is a live Revit collaboration file, unlike this one where it just says Revit file. So again, if it's going to be a collaboration for Revit active file, you need to upload it through Revit, not the website. You only upload to the website if it's just going to be a file transfer or so on. Now working in Revit, once you're inside the file, I talked about the create new local being grayed out, that it will automatically create the cache for you, and we'll get into the cache in a little bit. But there are some small differences between them, between the regular work sharing and the cloud version. They open the same, they have the same functionalities of work sets, checking out elements, and relinquishing and syncing. The only difference is where the file is saved, and then two other options of publishing and picking what you want to publish to the website. Whereas in the non-cloud version of it, you don't have to publish anything, so it's a little bit different there. So I want to talk about the publishing option here. When you're in a Revit file and you're working, you're doing the normal syncing and saving, there will be an option on your Collaborate tab. There will be two settings here. One is Publish Settings, and if you open that dialog box, there will be a set that you can create or manage a set. And what a set is that you can select what views and sheets that you want to be available on the Collaboration for Revit website or the BIM 360 website. So if I come in here and pick my sheets, I'm going to select all my sheets, and I'm going to save my set. So I want my set to be included to be published. So I picked every single one of my sheets. I'm going to save and close that. So if I go back in there just to show you, that set is now with all these sheets saved. And if I need to update it, I can simply update them and resave that set, so that when I publish, it's going to publish what I want. So all these sheets are going to be available. Now, to publish, there on the Collaborate tab, there's the Manage Cloud Models. And then you go into your project that you're in. And then when you look at your file here, you'll see it listed. And when you hover over this option, you'll have this option of Publish Latest. Now currently it's checked for me because I didn't do anything, so I didn't save. So I'm gonna go ahead and sync first. I'm going to relinquish everything so that then now it's going to be saving locally, reloading, saving to central, save to local. So it even shows you the status of the upload, which is great in the regards that if this ever fails, you lose the internet connection or something, you'll know what happened. Once it's done, it will close. So now if I go back to the Manage Cloud Models, back to my project here, and I hover over this, eventually this will change to an up arrow. And when you hover over it, it will say Publish Latest. And then also up in the upper right-hand corner, there's little actions way over here that you can publish all. So if you had several files in here, you can publish latest for all of them. Rather than here, this is doing a publish at one at a time. So if I hit publish, it does pop up this, and you're just saying, yes, I'm aware that this is going to be made available, and you hit publish. And as this waits, you'll see the arrow moves up and down, so it's now publishing that latest information to the Collaboration for Revit or the BIM 360 website to be viewable. So I published all my sheets, so then when on the website version of it, this is going to be viewable up there. Now, while it's publishing, you can close and keep working. And then as you're working, eventually if you go back into the Managed Cloud Models, you'll see that it's finished publishing. It does take a little bit of time, but it depends on how much you're publishing and changes that it needs to be done to that published model in order to get it finished. So let's take a look current status here. So now it's done. So now on the website, the file is now published correctly for finished. Now, some of the workflows here would be that you would want to have at least a couple of users come in here every now and then, open a file, and publish the latest of that file to the website. There's not a way currently at this time to automate this or have a workflow where it just automatically publishes. You do have to kind of come in here and manage it yourself. The benefit of it, I guess, in the regards of managing yourself is you get to pick what is published and when it's published. You don't have to have it where it publishes every single time, and then on the website all of a sudden there's something there that you didn't want to be there. Because with the publishing settings, you're picking what you want to be viewable on the cloud. So if you publish something that you didn't want to have just anyone being able to view, maybe you're having a viewer look at the file and you don't want them to see a couple of views or something because they may contain information about your company or something, you don't have to publish those views. Now, before I get to the next portion of it, I want to go back to the website to show you what the publish will do. Is now if I come in here, I see the Revit file there, and currently it says version 1. And if I refresh the page, it will now say version 2. So that means it's a second version of the published copy. And if you click on the file, it will actually pop up, and you'll see it like to say it's going to be viewing something, and it comes up and, you know, here, 19 out of 22 viewables ready. So it's still processing all those viewables, but if I come over here now, 22 sheets are here, and maybe a view or two, maybe I have a 3D view available. Currently I just have sheets. But now if I go back and forth between all these sheets, so I'm going to go back to my first floor plan, that one is now ready. You know, so it's already here, and I do have the it's at the top. It looks like it's finished. So now I can view these in here. These are again just the viewing mode of it. These are the published copy. And I'll come back to this one a little bit later for the viewing of it. There's another feature for backups I want to talk about. But let's get to the next portion of it, which I wanted to talk about with working in Revit, but also now with the new desktop connector that just came out not too long ago. It came out like I think a week ago, and it introduced a new way to do some workflows. Now I do have to make the disclaimer, this currently only works with Revit 2018.2 update. 2017 and under, the desktop connector, it helps in the regards of transferring files and managing it. You just cannot use it for linking purposes. But with 2018, you can use it for linking as well. And I'll show that. So this desktop connector is a utility that you download and install. And if you go to on your website for the website for the team, if I go back to the page, there would be an option at the bottom. It usually pops up and tells me that, hey, you can download this desktop connector. I think you have to be in a project. Oh, I might already had it downloaded, but there is a setting that sometimes will pop up and say, hey, you can download this new desktop connector. Oh, actually, it's up here in the app. If I go to my profile menu here, there's desktop connector for BIM 360. And what it will do is it will install a utility on your computer, and it will actually appear down in your Windows tray. But what it also does is in File Explorer, it will now create this drive. And it shows up in your list over here, but it also shows up here. And if I open that up through File Explorer, I get all my projects or hubs I'm invited to. So I have a couple of clients that have invited me, but also I have my CAD Technology Center one. And there's my folder for my workflows. And inside this file will be all the files that I've uploaded. So I got my CAD files, Excel files, my structure file that I uploaded, and then my file I'm working in, and the shared parameter file. So everything on the website that I transferred over appears here. But what I can also do is grab a file from somewhere else on my computer, and I can copy it over to this other location. So I'm going to go grab the mechanical file, and I'm going to copy it and paste it in here. So I hit paste. There's not a right-click menu. You hit just paste, Control V. This will then copy it into this folder, and as you can see here, transferring files, and then it's uploading the file at the same time. And eventually, after that finishes, it will now be available on the website. So if I go back into the folder, let's see if it already shows up in here. Oh, takes a little bit, but there it is. It's now showing up. So it's currently still uploading, so it's going to be a little bit before it gets up there. But now when I have this file in here using this desktop connector, while I'm inside Revit, if I go to my insert and manage my links, and currently it says not found because I put them in a certain folder here. But if I reload from, and if I come over into my my drop down here, this PC and BIM 360 team, my hub, workflows, and then if I pick that file and I open it, it's going to change the path of where it is. So here it's got to transfer again, but eventually it'll switch over, and the path will update. It'll be a new path, and instead of being on my computer, it's gonna say it's gonna be on the Autodesk website or Autodesk Drive. So now if I put over, you can see here the path is now changed to be Autodesk Drive, my project I'm in, and then the file. So here you can see the path is cloud. So this works with Revit files, but it also works with CAD files. So I have a couple CAD files that I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to reload from. I'm going to go into my folder here, and I'm going to see that my CAD files that I uploaded, and I'm going to pick one of those, and I'm going to link to it. So what this does, this desktop connector, is it allows you the ability to link to a file that's not an active cloud file. In the past, in older versions, if you had a CAD file, you could upload it to the website on the BIM 360 team, but that's all you could do. You could not link to that file that was on the cloud. So you were stuck with having to come up with another option of manually transferring that file to everyone and telling them to put it in a certain location. So if they're working on the file, they had to have it at that location in order for it to find it. With this desktop connector, you don't have to do that anymore. You simply install this utility on everyone's computer, and as long as they're part of that project, that will download to their local cache to be able to be linked from. So now this will just be there. Now again, this only works with 2018 point 2, 17 and under, it would call out the user directory, not the Autodesk drive. The next part of this discuss is the recovering of files. There is a couple of things that you could do to recover a file if for some reason a backup you need to restore, or there's another issue with the file that you need to go backwards a version or two. There's a couple of workflows for this. The first one is through Revit. If you go to the Collaborate tab, Manage Cloud Models, and you pick on your project and you click on that, you get an option of viewing versions. And then when you view the versions, there will be a little hour or a time or clock that you can restore a previous version. Now, when you restore a version, this will completely replace the version of the file with that version. So now the cloud file is now backed up. It is now completely restored back to a previous version. So that if you have any issues with that, there is another, there's the issue there. But did some testing with this, and if you restore a version, the version becomes available as a previous version. So, or the current version becomes a previous version that you can also restore from. I'm not sure if this was intended by Autodesk or if this was just a mistake or on purpose, but it did seem to be pretty nice that I can restore a current version, as if I restored one version, I can then restore that other version again to bring it back, because it kind of keeps a history in the back end. I'm assuming Autodesk might have thought of this, so they did have that option. Now, if you're doing it through the web, again, the portal or the Managed Cloud Models, that's doing the entire file. Whereas the other method is through the web version. One thing you can do is when you go into the viewing mode of it, at the top there will be the versions, and you can pick on that version to view it. And once you're in the viewing mode of it, then you can download that file. So once you have it open, you hit the download button, that will download that copy. So when you download it, it is now off the cloud, so it's not replacing the one on the cloud. So we've had several clients request that they hit, well, I want to back up a version or look at a version, but I don't want it in the cloud anymore. I just want to look at it. So we recommended they do this one of looking at it here and then downloading that copy so that you look at it there. And if you need to, you can get rid of the file on the collaboration for Revit and then re-upload that file if needed. The next part of this is the removing files or archiving. There are a couple things about removing a file or archiving a file or project that a lot of clients had some issues with and not understanding what to do. So I'm going to go over the workflow here of removing files. There are two ways to do this. If you go to the website, so here on the website, I see all my files and I see the file that I'm in. If I click the little action arrow, there is the option to delete. Now, I'm going to close out of the Revit file because I want to show this. So while I'm on the website, if I come over here and I select my model and I delete it, it's going to say, do you want to do this? And yes. So now it's removing that from here. So now I no longer see that file. However, I did not delete that file. If I go back into Revit, go to the Open in BIM 360 and browse to where that file is located, you will notice the file is still here. It still shows here, and it will stay here forever. If you go just to the website and you delete it there, the Revit still works. I can still open it. I can still manage it, do whatever I need to. What it is basically on the website version of it, when you delete, all you're doing is you're deleting the viewable. You are not deleting the active file. So when I go into my collaboration, it's still here. Now, if you want that viewable back, you can go to the Manage Cloud Models, and republish the file. So I haven't synced yet, so I'm going to sync to get the publish to be available. So after I sync and publish again, the viewable on the website will be available again. So it will be restored as a viewable. So you do not want to delete a model just from the website, because again, it will still show up inside Revit. Instead, if you're deleting a file that this file was no longer needed on the website or in collaboration at all, you actually want to do that through Revit and manage cloud models. And in here, when you're looking at the file, you go to the actions and you say delete. This will completely delete the model from the cloud and the website. You can no longer access it. However, if you do delete a file, there is a trash that you can restore that file if need be. So you didn't lose it unless it's completely gone. There is a time limit for the trash can. If I delete it, it will say it's being gone. I'm not going to do that while I'm in the model. If you actually close out of a file, this is the other nice thing, is if I'm not in a file at all, I can still go to the Manage tab and manage my cloud models, or Collaborate tab, manage it without having to go into a file. So I'm going to delete it from here. And when I do that, it's going to show up under Trash. And if I click over here, I can then restore this version if I choose to. But also here, models in the trash will be deleted after 30 days. So you have 30 days to do that, to recover that. So I'm going to go ahead and recover so it's back over here as an option. So again, you do not want to delete just from the website. If that model is completely gone, you want to delete it from the collaboration. The next part is archiving. That's a simple process of going to the website. And if this project is completely done, when I go to the project page at the end, I can archive it. When I archive a file, it's going to pop up. It's no longer going to have access to it. So I archive it. And it's going to disappear from my list, but there will be an option at the top of archived projects where I will see my projects, and now I can restore or completely delete this project. Now I'm going to restore so I have it back. Okay, and then the final thing here is, do I need C4R or not? And the answers are here on screen is yes, if you are working live in a Revit file with another firm or office, maybe around the world or you're around the United States. It's really handy if you're also working from home and you don't have access to your server. Collaboration for Revit handles that. If you just have internet access, you can do that. Also, if you want live updates faster for links, if you have another firm you're working with in another discipline and you have their Revit file in the collaboration for Revit as well, you can link to their file and you can get updates faster. So every time they sync and you reload their file, you will get their changes in your file pretty quickly. So you don't have to wait for an update later on that week or have to call them up and ask for an updated file. You simply can reload their file. Now again, that's if they're working in collaboration for Revit, you can get that file faster. If they're just using the desktop connector to upload their file or go to the website, upload their file, you can get a fast link update there too, but again, they have to manually upload that file. And the answer for no is if you're not working live in a file with another firm or office, it's all in-house, you're not doing external at all, or you don't have internet access somewhere, you won't be able to work on collaboration for Revit, so you don't need collaboration for Revit there.